Restrictive measures are used as a method of last resort to keep people safe from a risk of harm or legal sanction with prior approval by a human rights committee. These videos are based on real life scenarios that are or have been implemented for people receiving services. They can be used to help explain when restrictive measures are needed, what measures are prohibited, when the measures are not used safely, and what measures aren't restrictive in nature and do not need to be reported.
Refusal to transport. Mandy tells her DSP that she needs a ride to the store to purchase some cigarettes. The DSP tells Mandy he will not take her because Mandy had a bad day at work and she has lost the privilege to go anywhere that evening. Mandy tells her DSP that he can't do that because it's her right to be treated like an adult. A behavioral support strategy may include the restriction of a person's rights only when a person's actions pose risk of harm or are very likely to result in the person being the subject of a legal sanction, such as eviction, arrest, or incarceration. Without the risk of harm or the likelihood of legal sanction, a person's rights shall not be restricted. Mandy was denied her right to go to the store to purchase more cigarettes. This is a rights restriction and must either be approved through Mandy's plan or be processed through the unusual and major unusual incident system. It is important to remember that all people served have the right to live full lives and make good and bad decisions. A staff member cannot deny services based on their own beliefs or judgments. Medical versus behavioral transport. Danica yells and tells her transportation driver that the day service staff are mean. She bangs on the arm of her wheelchair on the bus. The transportation staff follow routine practice and fasten all safety straps to the wheelchair. Then, the transportation staff put a special buckle guard on Danica's wheelchair seatbelt so she can't undo it during transport. The buckle guard has been approved through the Human Rights Committee and is part of her individualized service plan for use when Danica is upset prior to travel. The staff speak with Danica about how her day will be better and ask what her plans are for the evening. They also discuss meeting with the day staff the next day to let them know how she felt. A restrictive measure is only used as a last resort to keep a person safe. In this case, Danica's safety was at risk, as she has a history of throwing herself out of her wheelchair when she's upset. The measure used was reviewed with her team and approved through her individualized service plan in the Human Rights Committee. Mechanical restraints such as buckle guards, harnesses, and seat belts are items that can't be undone by the person in order to control their actions due to a risk of harm. Once the risk of harm is passed, the mechanical restraint shall cease immediately. If a person needs a harness for a medical reason, such as keeping the person sitting up straight, this is not considered a restrictive measure. In this case, it would not need to be approved through the Human Rights Committee. Car safety locks. Mira sits in the back seat of a car. When she and her DSP arrive at the destination and have parked, Mira tries to open the door, but the doors won't open. The DSP realizes that she had forgotten to turn off the child's safety locks she had turned on for her children. The DSP turns off the child's safety locks and opens the door for Mira so she can exit the car. Mira was unable to exit the vehicle because the child's safety locks were turned on. Since the DSP did not purposefully turn on the safety locks to keep Mira in the car, she has children and forgot to turn them off when she arrived at work. This is not considered a restrictive measure. If the child's safety locks need to be turned on because a person has a history of trying to leave a vehicle while in motion, it would be considered restrictive and would need to go through the Human Rights Committee process for approval. Medical versus purposeful. Because of a broken ankle, Louisa's staff assist her to move from her work chair to a wheelchair. The staff remind Louisa that her doctor has said the ankle will only heal if she doesn't walk on it and uses a wheelchair. Louisa tells her staff that she hates the wheelchair and wants to walk to the bathroom herself. Staff remind Louisa that her SSA put the wheelchair in her plan so she can heal before her beach vacation this summer. Louisa agrees to use the chair. The use of the chair may or may not be a restriction, depending on the person's acceptance of using the wheelchair. Louisa was willing to use the wheelchair, so the use of the wheelchair is considered a medical need and not a restriction. If Louisa refused to accept the use of the wheelchair and not using the wheelchair put her at risk, it would be considered restrictive and would need to be approved through the Human Rights Committee process.